Welcome back, you guys. Very interesting build tonight with the H&K VP40. I just kind of wanted to quickly take you guys through it, give you more of an understanding of what it is we are trying to achieve so you have a better understanding as it unfolds, what we're kind of getting into and what that end game is. Before we get too deep into the actual build, the customer ended up sending two necklaces, one for myself, one for my wife. There's a little card in here that explains the necklace a little bit better. Thank you, customer, for providing this. It's always cool to be able to have an opportunity to get something from your region and also to be able to add something to the video. We will add some more pictures of these items that are in the bag at the end of the video. So thank you for that very much. Let's jump back to the build. Let's talk about the build a little bit more. Really excited about this. Really big build overall. So you guys have seen on the channel, we've done some other H&K products in the past, mostly the VP9. It just comes out being one of those deals that every once in a while something will come through that's really significantly more advanced than the other stuff, and we do want to show you guys that. We want to turn it out. We do want to give you guys a better idea of what we do offer as a service. We have done this before, but we've never done it on a VP model slide, and never to this extent. So there's a lot of new pieces. We're going to be building a gear design on the slide. We're going to be doing some work on the barrel. We've got some advanced coloring we're going to be doing. But first and foremost, one of the most important pieces to this puzzle is we have to actually get the slide prepared for the laser work. Okay, we don't want to go around serrations. We don't want to work around text. We've got a ridge on the top. There are a lot of hurdles to get to where we want to be in order to start actually processing that gear pattern. So I want to talk about those. That's why we'll jump straight into that CNC work, then we'll navigate over to laser work and get into the detailed fine-tuning aspect of this build. So first and foremost, one of the large changes that we want to have made to this slide is we want to end up adding an optic to the top rear of the slide. So customer has provided a Trigicon, so we will be cutting the Trigicon between the barrel and where the rear sight is, right in this zone here. We're not going to lose that rear dovetail. And the other thing that we get along with putting an optic on a slide is that we need to upgrade those rear and front sights to iron sights in order to co-witness. So we also have the matching Trigicon sights for that, the night sights. So no doubt this is going to be, once again, a very advanced build. Now you guys are already seeing the barrel down here. We've got a threaded barrel that we'll talk about here in a moment. So optic cut, upgrade on your sights. One of the larger or more difficult pieces to this puzzle is the top ridge here. Now, the top ridge is kind of an interesting little piece, and it's going to be hard to see here, but the front sight doesn't actually sit on the ridge. You guys can see a little bit of a gap through there. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we leave a little bit of a ridge there for the Trigicon sight, because we don't want that gap to grow or be any larger. So we do want to shave the top front section. We're going to be shaving it basically from where the barrel is up to the front here, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to remove that ridge underneath the front sight, because then it creates a larger gap. We also want to make sure that we don't shave too much where the actual sight protrudes over into the flat zone. It does need to stay on that top ridge. So we got to do a little bit of key work there, make sure everything looks pretty clean on the top section. Once again, we're going to shave the sides. Hurdle here, no doubt. One of the things you're going to find out about the VP40 slides is they're very beefy, thick, bulky, word it how you want. They're a heavy-duty slide, okay? So we're not in fear of taking off too much material, having any issues with cycling or functionality. We're not in any kind of an issue with that, but what we do have an issue with is that some of the cuts on the slide are very deep. We will be working around cuts that are already there. We've got a weird channel that's down and through here that goes only to here. I don't know why it didn't go all the way to the back. It just seems to be an odd piece the way it's set up, how they've manufactured that. So we're going to end up doing a pattern that will come down, tie into this. This will come off the end. It should be somewhat of a pretty seamless look. We're going to end up using an end mill, which is a flat base cutter. We don't want any cupping effect, because we do want the gear pattern to come right up onto the edge. If we end up using something like a ball nose cutter, we get half of that cutter is a round cut, the other half would be cut off flat whenever we do the shave in the center, and we would end up having kind of a little bit more of an odd transition. So want to make sure we're using the right cutter, want to make sure we're processing the slide correctly and accordingly before we get over to the laser work. So we're going to see a shave. These are all going to come off. Once again, not a big issue on as far as material removal, because there's a lot of material here. We're going to be doing the same thing over here. Interesting once again that the flute stops here. we're going to end up coming up at an angle through here. So this is going to come over at an angle and off the end. This is all going to get shaved. This is all going to stay. We're not going to be doing anything to the rear zone here. Real interesting the way it should play out. Should be a real clean looking side. Now let's talk about the laser work, okay? Because for you guys it's seamless. We're going to come right off the CNC. My end, we're going to do some cleanup. We're going to go right over to the laser. Now, one of the biggest issues we have here is we happen to have an extra edge here. There's a little chamfer here, so it's flat. It has a taper, okay? So that poses somewhat of a problem. A lot of you CAD guys would say, well, create your file, run it in the CNC machine. That same outline you've created, you can do a fill with your, your pattern and run it. That's not 100% true, because the issue we run into is that as this material goes down, this smooth section here, okay, the flat zone before the chamfer, ends up actually getting wider, okay? So if you were to measure the distance between where the scallop here is, or this little flute to the flat, you'd say, okay, cool, it's blah, blah, blah. It's 3/8 or 1/2 inch, whatever you want to use. We'll just use round numbers. But then whenever you shave the side, that's not the same case anymore, because as we go lower, this actually ends up growing farther here towards the 12 o'clock side, so ultimately the flat is a wider piece. So we've got to make some decisions. Do we want to try to have that gear come all the way up to where the flat is on the top, even though there's a roll there? Do we want to keep it just in the flat? So once again, it's a building block opportunity. We need to shave, we need to look, we need to design, we need to move on. And that's how that is. So sometimes you really can't figure out what your next step is until you see where we're starting with. Okay, so that's kind of where it is here for us. Should be interesting overall. Also, the other issue we have is we've got a chamfer here. So this is going to have to get somewhat tapered, or kind of covered off of here, so we're not running the gear down into here. We've got an issue where there's actually on the flat zone, which would be like this, like actually the flat side, this is actually also on this side as well. So it's not cut up in there, it's actually on the flat part right up in here. So we've got to take into consideration how do we work around that, how do we not get a gear pattern on that, somewhat of that cut right there, that little flute they've got. So, no doubt there's going to be some challenges to this puzzle. That's why we are taking it a little bit slower. So we've got a barrel. Haven't decided 100% what we're going to do on the barrel. I know we have existing writing on what would be the ejection side, and it's deep writing. So if you look at how thick the barrel is, the wall, we're probably not going to want to take and shave that side off to remove that to then add engravings to re-deepen the cut. More than likely what's going to happen is we'll either work around this, or we'll just do some sort of a shave. We might remove the serial number because it's more of a white-based surface engraving, and then obviously the barrel's going to get coated, so it'll look a little bit more clean. The top, don't know 100% what we're going to be doing. I don't know if we're going to add a logo, if we're going to do a gear, if we're going to add something else back to this that we've stripped off or taken off the side. I mean, obviously we could do something like, the VP40. We don't want to add the H&K logo because it's already here, but we might be able to do a kind of interesting pattern with the VP40, maybe some gears in the background. That's still somewhat up in the air of what's going to look good, how's it going to flow, and what are we going to do, right? Also, we have the round part of the barrel. Is there a pattern that we're going to do on the round part of the barrel? What are we going to do as far as that goes? We have there's definitely a lot of options on the table. One of the things that we're going to be skipping is we're not going to be punching any holes through the sides. The walls on this are, once again, massive. Real thick walls, something that you'd see on some of the thicker Glocks, like the G20, 21s, 29s, that kind of thing. So as far as runtime goes, it's not a logical move. We don't want to shave the side down far enough in order to have the laser actually penetrate through the side. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think logically we would be better off doing something like a top shave, coming back and revisiting. Do we want to do some sort of a top gear? Do we want to add some sort of a top window through the gear? The top itself could easily be cut with the laser. Intricate design, maybe that's something that we'll do. Maybe some sort of a gear pattern on the top that's skeletonized. You guys have seen that before. We did a G29 that was very similar to that. So we definitely have some options. We just don't know 100% what direction we're going to take, because we do need to start taking into calculation thicknesses, size of engravings, and things like that. So there happens to be a lot of what do we do next once we get there. So guys, what we're going to do now is we are going to just jump right straight over to the Tormach. We're going to turn out the precision work of cleaning up the slide. If I have an opportunity, I'll snag a couple pictures. You guys will get to see a blank canvas before we get to the laser. That'll kind of give you a feel for, what does it look like before we get into the laser, instead of just engraving over existing engravings or working around existing serrations. So you guys may want to actually see that, especially some of you guys that are machinists might want to see what does it look like before we start adding extra things. Then once we get down to the end, we're going to do some sort of an advanced coating on the slide Obviously, they're going to get some sort of harder coating put on the barrel. So we don't know 100% what we're doing there. It's going to be, I'm thinking it's going to be some kind of a battle-worn combination between the two, something that's going to match pretty good. But I haven't set anything in stone as far as color combinations or designs and how I would want it to look. So guys, let's just get the CNC work turned out. Let's get the laser work turned out. And if anything changes along the way, something turns up or comes up or we change a direction, you guys will be the first to know. All right, guys, let's take a look and see exactly how this came out in the end. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. This happens to be one of the most advanced builds that we offer. Of course, you guys have seen this on the Glocks, the M&Ps. We've done this on several different makes and models out there, but I'm going to tell you what, every time I happen to do one of these, I am impressed. There's so much that goes into this as far as shaving the sides, removing the factory text. We get weight reduction, the detail that goes into it. How does it lay with other patterns that are on there? Obviously, one of the things that we ended up adding was a top window. We didn't have a full discussion on that at the beginning because we honestly just didn't know 100% what we were doing. So I ended up filming that with my iPhone just real quick as we had made a last minute decision. Upgraded it to suppressor sights, high quality ones, which is the Trigicons. Ended up going with the Trigicon optic for co-witness overall. Guys, I'm going to tell you, honestly, there just really isn't a lot to say. The overall detail of how the gears lay, the pattern overall, the depth, just the texture, the whole feel of the whole thing really is just out of this world. I mean, it ends up being one of those very, very advanced builds. I'm just really glad I had the opportunity to do it on a weapon that we typically don't work on. We do see a lot of the M&Ps, we see a lot of the Glocks, obviously, a handful of the CZs, and obviously there's some off-model stuff. But this was a 40, okay? So we usually work on the 9s, the VP9s, and stuff like that, and the SK versions, so, you know, the smaller versions. But once we start getting into the 40, we start talking about other things. Thicker walls, overall, wider slide, a different taper. These are actually pretty square. So, you know, you start really sitting down going, how many things have I done that really can be applied to this design? And you start checking all those boxes that go, okay, we got to shave the side, never done that. We got to align that with where the flute is on the side, never done that. We got to figure out exactly how that's going to flow on the right-hand side, the ejection side, because we're not going to go all the way back because the flute stops right here. Never done that. So there ends up being a lot of different things that kind of hit pretty hard on the paper of how do we achieve these? How do we get to where we want to be? What, you know, how do we target this? And how do we, in the end, where do we want to be? What's the goal, right? What coloring are we going to do? What's going to happen with the barrel? So sometimes when you look at big projects like this, they seem to be extremely intimidating on what can be done. And I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm just going to be right straight up and honest with it. Sometimes, you know, directions have to change in the middle of a project, but I do seem to be the guy that usually can make some good changes, make some good advice, give some ideas. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? We obviously hit a roadblock in here. We will obviously want to see the barrel. Let's add a window. Let's do a step down here. Let's keep it raised in the front where the sight is. There happens to be a lot of decision making that has to go into something like this. And this is one of the #1 reasons why you guys reach out to me. You say, hey, I really want some kind of a battle worn. This is the color I'm looking for. This is the flow I want. This is what it's going to look like. This is, in the end, this is what I'm hoping for. Now execute. And you know, that's really why we stay real busy. I try to get the stuff done the best we can. I try to get the stuff turned out in a somewhat of a timely fashion. But every once in a while, something like this comes down the pipe and it's like, oh, whoa, hold up, stop. You know, let's start looking at all those hurdles. Let's figure out how to get over them. So when we start running this race, we don't have to slow down from beginning to end. And that's obviously the #1 reasons why you guys choose me. Attention to detail hits extremely high on my checkbox and my list of things, as does communication. What about this? What about that? What are your thoughts? And you know, those are things that I want to have your input on and trying to steer you guys into a good decision making choices. You know, I guess during that project, or making good decisions during that project. So just things to take into consideration when you are supporting a company. When you're looking out there about, hey, there's a company that does this, or hey, there's a company that does that. There happen to be a lot of us smaller guys that do extremely good work, detailed work. We work through these projects with you. It's a hand-holding experience. You guys have never done it. In some cases, we've never done it. So it happens to be one of those deals where it's a learn for everyone, and let's take it slow. Let's make sure we do it right. Let's make sure that we're both on the same page from beginning to end, execution-wise, and it comes out being a beautiful project in the end. So no doubt, I just kind of wanted to give you that flow overall, give you that feeling. If we haven't done so already, we're going to be adding some pictures to this. Guys, I encourage you to share the content. A lot of the stuff is unique. We're not going to see it again. We're not going to do it again. If we do it again, it might be on a different model slide, different make. Might be on a new model, you know, something that comes out in a year or two from now. So we have the opportunity to flow some patterns onto some new stuff. It's really cool about the channel is that it's just so unique. There's so many different things. We're really building things through the eyes of the customer. Customer says, hey, I've got this budget. I want to do this. What do you think? Can it be done? Can it not be done? And that's one of the reasons why I think there's a lot of you guys that follow us, whether you happen to be customers that want to have something done, or you're service providers that you're providing an idea to somebody. We do put a lot of things out on the table. You know, some of that stuff matures out into something that's super awesome and beautiful in the end, and some of the other stuff is a little bit more challenging. But we would recommend that you subscribe in order to stay updated on that. It doesn't cost you anything. Helps us grow, helps other people find us. It encourages me on my end to, let's do that video. Guys, I can do projects like this all day long and never show you a single thing because I'm that busy. Not that I don't want to, not that I don't care, not that I don't feel like you guys need to see it, but a lot of the times those pictures get posted on Instagram. Sometimes they flow over to Facebook. We obviously will do some YouTube videos on some of the larger ones. So it just happens to be one of those deals where, you know, comments, you know, the likes, the shares, those are all encouraging to me in order to take the time to stop at the beginning. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. Let's execute it. Let's talk about it in the end. Any hurdles, any obstacles, what changes were made. And really, you know, if I don't get the mindset of, hey, let's slow down here and let's educate some people on this because there might be other people that want this, then all the thing that you guys get in the end is a picture. Okay, now pictures are really cool and all, but the videos really do show the work. It executes it a little bit more. Obviously, it shows the flow. How did we do it? You know, and that kind of thing. So those comments, that positive attitude and energy and sharing is really what keeps me doing it. You know, if we're not seeing comments, we're not seeing people sharing the videos, and we're not seeing any likes, honestly, I'm going to continue doing it because people are always going to reach out to me because they want to have it done. The difference is am I going to take the time to show you guys, or am I just going to skip it and say, hey, we did it, here's a picture? I would rather take the time, especially on the high-end builds, if there's something specific you want to see, you know, say, you just be like, hey, anytime you do a gear build, I want to see it, or anytime you do this kind of model slide, I want to see it. You know, so you don't have to like everything that we do. Of course, this is through the, you know, I'm executing through the eyes of the customer, but some of the big ones that you really hope we don't skip over, speak up. Okay, that's obviously how we get enough check boxes to check the list and says, okay, when that comes down the pipe, we need to film it. Okay, so that's kind of one of those deals. We would encourage you guys to participate along. We do have a contacts tab on the webpage. Use it. Ask those questions. We're going to reply back. Then you can include pictures. We do that so we don't get spammed. A lot of people would just send us pictures and be like, hey, what do you think about this? So we pulled that off there. We really want to make sure that's a firearm we work on before we start even, you know, asking what's the work look like and send me some pictures. Want to make sure that it is a service that we do provide before we get that far into it. So there's a little bit of checks and balances back and forth. Let us know what you want to have done. We'll reach back out. We'll say, send us a picture, send us a drawing, you know, give me something to work with here, and then we'll keep moving forward with that. We do process the orders through the webpage and through email, so that's the best way to do it. You know, right now it's just kind of one of those deals where we're all over the board. We don't have a lot of Glocks or M&Ps or CZs or H&Ks. It's just kind of everything. We've had a lot of different projects come up. Well, this is one of the big ones. We do have another slide from the same customer here. Haven't decided 100% what we're going to do on it, if we're going to do anything on it. I just don't know what that's going to mature into quite yet, as we are on possibly on the other side of the spectrum, which is not laser work. It might be CNC work, or it might be a different design overall of laser work. So it wouldn't be an exact clone. This isn't going to be like a pair of guns or anything like that. So we're going to see what that matures into. If it ends up being something a little bit more than optic and a color, we'll show it. If it's not, then you'll find it on our Instagram. So we do encourage that you follow along over there. Guys, if you have any questions, just let me know what's going on, and I'm going to try to keep you guys as updated best we can. If you've been watching some of our a couple of older videos, the last couple that we've released, then obviously you know a little bit more about what's going on with us and the lives of us as far as NCEngravers goes. And hopefully that, you know, you obviously know there's going to be a lot of different content coming up with a facility, with talking about other employees and talking about things. So we may actually have to have a sit down and figure out how we got there. I know there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I've got a business out of my house, I want to grow it, how'd you do it? And maybe there's an opportunity there to educate you guys a little bit. I don't know if that's anything you guys are interested in or not, but once again, if you don't speak up, then I have no idea what you want to hear. So guys, yeah, let's just kind of take it to the next build, and we'll see what we come up with. Very, very pleased. I'm very pleased with the way this one came out. Just super killer. All right, guys, you can catch me on the next one.